This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Spouses Talking Houses with husband and wife real estate team Jennifer and Brian Frost. Everything you want to know about buying, selling, investing, and owning property. So let's get real about real estate.
All right, guys, welcome. Today on the Quirky Dog, we have a very special guest here. We have Jennifer Frost from Spouses Talking Houses.
Hi there. How are you? So today we can do Peeps Talking Pups.
Oh, great. Perfect. Yeah, I didn't know what would be clever for us. I'm like, they have such a cool name. What are we, Hogs Talking Dogs? But we're Peeps Talking Pups combined, so we'll be all set.
Rovers and Realtors.
Oh, he did like Rovers and Realtors. We were talking about that. So we're going to do things today a little bit differently. If you're in the market for a house or if you're looking to sell your house, the housing market is still great out there considering everything that's going on. I think you're going to get some good tips. But first, we're going to do the quirky tip of the day still, even though we're switching it up. And our quirky tip of the day is whether you're interested in real estate or not, especially if you live in Mass and New Hampshire, please follow the Facebook page, Spouses Talking Houses, because Jennifer and her husband, Brian, are realtors and appraisers, and they're licensed in both states. So you can maybe get some business or at least some great real estate tips from them.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you so much. So, and your website is called
We're the Quirky Dog Podcast, but normally we run everything through Canine Healing. That's
Canine
our online.
Healing, exactly,
that's our online dog business. Yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, how about Bratz Talking Cats?
You did have a cat question. I said, Scott, are you going to be able to field that one?
I know.
So, what is your history kind of with going into houses and dogs, and what are your thoughts on all this stuff?
So, the majority of the time that we do go in to do a market analysis on a house, walking into that home and they tend to have dogs. Mm-hmm. They also will have cats, but it's not an issue in the front door the way that it is with a dog. And a lot of times the dog is jumping and barking and circling around and all excited.
Sounds pretty normal.
It's very normal. It's
Sounds
very
like
normal.
when we go to a house.
Exactly. And then the people are always trying to shun the dog away. And I feel like I have to greet the dog before the dog's going to want to go away. So I don't remember when or why I started doing this, but I usually will just not make eye contact, but give them the back of my hand. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go and greet them kind of a little bit face to face, because I feel like from the dog's point of view, nobody would come visit the house unless they were there to visit the dog.
The way that people raise the dogs, they probably think that, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So I feel like if I don't greet the dog, I'm just making things worse. But I really don't like when they jump on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because you're wearing your nice clothes too, because you're a realtor.
Theoretically, yeah.
Yeah.
So what tips do you have for her?
Well,
what I
would recommend is, and this is what I do, is when I set that appointment, I ask them to have their dogs on a leash before my arrival.
Oh.
I'll be there at 3.
Yeah.
Please have your dogs on a leash or put them in a room where they won't be able to rush the door.
Okay.
Normally they're calling me because they don't want their dog doing that anymore.
Right.
So right out of the gate, I believe them when they tell me their dog's going to do that. So they say, well, you won't be able to see the behavior. I said, I believe you when you tell me they're going to jump all over people.
And in your case, you don't need to see the behavior. That doesn't help your sale.
I don't want the dog to get another opportunity to rehearse these negative behaviors.
Right.
So by having the dog on a leash or having the dog removed, I can come in and talk with them about what the problems are. And then we can get the dog out. Typically, the dog will be more calmed down after I've been in the house for 15 or 20 minutes, even if they have the dog on a leash, because now they've accepted that I'm there. Okay. They didn't get to have the big party, and now they've kind of mentally moved on.
Oh, okay.
I guess that big party isn't going to happen.
Okay.
So they're calmer.
Yeah.
I definitely would have treats with me if there's a dog.
Okay, good.
I would commit, but this has all been set up ahead of time. They have a dog. Mm-hmm. I would ask them if they say, oh, the dog is a little, exuberant. Mm-hmm. Say, and I would even use I would say I'm a little bit nervous with dogs, even though you're not.
Yeah.
Just to get
the opposite of it.
Right,
yeah.
But to get them to be a little more proactive. Mm-hmm. Could you do me a favor? I love dogs, but they make me a little bit nervous sometimes. Could you have your dog on a leash or have the dog in another room in the bathroom or something like that? And you can, if they do come in and they're just loose and they're rushing you, if you take food and put it right on their nose, don't ask them to do anything. Don't start with the sit and all this crap.
No,
just give them the treat. If they take the treat, if you throw a handful of treats on the floor, they could care less about you after that. You know what I mean? Because now their mind is shifted to the food.
Food. Yeah.
And that will diffuse it a little bit quicker.
So I always feel that I need to ask permission before I give the dog a treat. So,
but you can talk about that on the front end.
So this is
the phone call.
This is something I'm not doing on the phone call. Right. So this is very important.
And it would be great because it would help you establish a better relationship with the people too, in the sense that you care about their dog. It's not just about you. It's about, I don't want to create a problem for you and your dog.
Well, and my sad story is that I don't get to have a dog because my husband and daughter are allergic and don't want to have a dog in general just because of the time and maintenance. So when I go into someone's home and they have a dog, I pretty much don't want to talk about real estate. I just want to talk about the dog and spend all my time with the dog. So I need to keep myself focused as well.
Yeah, well, for their benefit and the dog's benefit, if you really care about the dog, because you're coming at it from a typical selfish perspective. You want the dog. You want to enjoy the dog. Yeah. And I understand that. But it's reinforcing the negative behavior.
Right.
So if you were to go in there and not give the dog attention for the first 15, you can still interact with the dog, but after the dog has calmed down, you could be, and you can decide if you want to bring that dog's energy up to a crazy level or not.
I don't. No.
If you don't, then I would be calm in my attitude, my voice. I wouldn't have the high, oh my God, I love dogs and I don't get to have one. Whoa. And the dog's going freaking crazy.
Right, exactly.
That's going to happen.
This is me, yes.
So if you go in and you're calm, you're more neutral, so you don't activate the crazy, then you can calmly interact with the dog. And before you leave, you can make the dog crazy and get out.
Okay. So on the phone ahead of time, I asked that the dog potentially be leashed or in another room until I've had time to get there.
Yeah, I will also do that for your own safety. Because a lot of people don't know.
Right.
What they say is, you walk into this situation like, they're like almost cringing, like, oh, I hope it goes okay.
Right.
When they're doing that stuff, that means the dog has nipped somebody or something has happened a little bit that everybody was uncomfortable with previously. And if you go in there, and food will diffuse a lot of situations. You can have a dog that's territorial fear. Yeah. And they're coming up, woo, 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 and they're like, and they're afraid of you, but they're advancing. It's quite often, if you can just, toss out a treat to them, it will start to diffuse the situation.
And not give them a lot of attention, just
don't give them
in a very low-key way.
And do you carry some type of portfolio, a clipboard or something with you?
Usually a clipboard, yeah.
I would always use that the way a mailman should use his mailbag, between a buffer between you and the dog.
Okay.
The first thing you do, you come in with your clipboard, and you'll have to now disinfect this whole thing.
Right.
But just nonchalantly, this is between your legs and the dog's nose.
Okay.
And you're just using it as a little bit of a buffer to just initially evaluate this dog's headspace. Because Jess and I went to see a friend of ours who has a young dog that hadn't had a lot of social exposure. And she said, oh, I want to show you my dog. And she took this dog. The dog was in the backyard. The dog came running in, and it just rushed us. And it was fearful. And, woo, 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 and it was like, had I turned my back on the dog, it would have bit me in the butt. It was really seriously fearful and advancing on us. And I said to the lady, after I saw this dog come in, because I knelt down, because I knew the dog was under a year old, I thought, well, it's a puppy.
Right, exactly, yeah.
I wasn't squared up on it. I was sideways. I knelt down. I was just going to just kind of give it some neutral attention. It came in, and it was really scared. And I calmly stood up, and the dog was not calming down. And I said, get a leash and put a leash on your dog. And the lady was embarrassed. She's like, oh, my God, I haven't seen that kind of behavior before. And it wasn't just me. It was both of us.
Right.
But so you don't know what you're walking into.
And then, of course, Brian is allergic, so he doesn't want them jumping.
He doesn't want the interaction.
He doesn't mind interaction, but he doesn't want them jumping on them and all of that.
Yeah. Well, if you preface it when you ask him to put the dog on a leash when you show up, if you ask, does your dog have any food allergies? Say, I normally like to bring treats. Because ideally now, you've created a relationship with the client. You're going to be showing the house. You're going to be going back. You want to have a good first introduction with the dog. And if they say, no, my dog doesn't have any food allergies, then whatever you bring to the house, if you just sprinkle that on the ground, like Scott said, I can't tell you how many owners get so bummed out that their dog gets so excited to see them when they get home. And we say, oh, just take some kibble and drop it on the ground. And then they're like, oh, you were gone for 8 hours.
Whatever.
They're just scavenging, you know what I mean? And you having the back of your hand there, like you talked about, and not squaring up on the dog and letting them get comfortable. It's really about your presence too, because you don't want to be fearful. You don't want to project anything. You're just evaluating the situation in the moment.
Well, and usually one or two of the owners is getting kind of hyper about trying to control the dog.
Yes.
And so I feel like I need to be a little centered and calm,
Yes.
so that I'm not adding to the dog's anxieties at that point.
The other thing, if they have a backyard, and I do this quite often too with dogs, if they have a backyard, I'll say, put the dog in the backyard. And because I want to sit down and kind of ask them some questions and get a feel for what's really going on before I actually work with the dog. And if the dog is going crazy, I can't communicate with them well.
Right.
And in your case, if it's a very first meeting where you just want to check out their property to do an evaluation, and with your husband, and you want to do give them some pricing. It's the very first time. Don't even interact with the dog. Say, hey, could you put her in the backyard? I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough, just see what you got going on. And you don't have to be distracted with that whole deal.
Yeah.
And then you can do a little tally here. When I dote on the dog, do I get better sales than when I don't? Because people love their dog so much, that might be help making you a client too. So you want to weigh that out. But
if you get the listing, then of course you have to make establish a relationship with the dog. But before you get the listing, why get bit over?
Yeah. Well,
the
and
initial...
even if they're in the backyard, I can guarantee you I'll be asking what kind of breed they are and how old they are. Because I'm totally fascinated. So that's okay. We also will be entering the homes and doing showings. And usually we ask that our sellers leave the house for showings and that they 9 times out of 10, they take their dog with them.
Right.
But occasionally when I'm showing a property that's not my listing, there will be a dog that's in a crate. And there's all different behaviors there.
Right.
When I'm coming in with 2 to 4 other strangers and walking through this house, and the owners aren't home and the dog is in a crate.
Right.
And so sometimes the dogs can be a little bit kind of aggressive and barking. Other times they don't pay any attention to us at all. And then other times they're like shaking and shivering. And I never know the right thing to do. I usually do talk to them and, again, just let them sniff my hand because I feel like that's a good thing to do, to let them greet me, but I absolutely don't know what I'm supposed to do.
I would suggest in that instance, just in your car, have like a Staples trifold. So if now, because these aren't, obviously you're telling your...
I'll tell her more what that is.
I will, but for your own listings, you're telling the owners that having your dog removed is probably best for the showings, correct? Right. So this is this random situation that it's somebody else's listing. The owners haven't been briefed enough. So like a presentation board that you can get with the 3 things.
Yeah.
Keep it in the car.
Block.
Yeah. Keep it in the car. And if there's a dog that happens to be in a crate, you can just go place that. So there isn't that visual so much.
Okay.
So now if the dog is looking like the sad dog in the MSPCA commercial that everyone wants to donate money to, they're not going to have that feeding into looking at a home that they hopefully want to purchase. Everyone's there to move forward a sale. And then also the dog should be less reactive without that visual.
Okay.
If that makes sense. We always say that even like if the dog is reactive at home, drop your blinds. If your dog is reactive in the car, have something cover the window. The visual
interesting. All
will
right.
kind of, because they know that you're there, they'll hear you, but the visual doesn't necessarily make them go like this. And the last thing you want is somebody coming through with a kid and maybe the kid sticks the fingers in the crate or something like that.
Of course.
So that way you can even put your logo on it. So I would play it that way, just because we sold a house. We sold our house, I'd say 3 years ago now. And we had at the time, at least 7 or 8 of our own personal dogs. We had a facility that kept all the dogs that we were training away from the home, but people didn't know we owned 1 dog.
Wow.
Like we bought all soft crates so they could just fold them up, put them in a closet. We'd always remove the dogs. Like it was surprising to, our realtor was like, oh, you guys have a lot of dogs. We said it won't be an issue, won't be a thing. And, we're big on the house not smelling like dogs and everything else. So there are ways that people can adjust. They're just not normally used to adjusting to their dog. They're used to having their dog run the show.
Certainly, picking up the toys and the food bowls and all that kind of stuff and just making the place look a little bit cleaner.
Well, and I was going to ask you about, the fur and the dog smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is your bigger problem?
I would say the dog smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that just, if they have wall-to-wall carpet, if this carpet, it's going to hold more smells. If the dog is either wet or having potty training issues, it gets into the carpets. And people that live with that smell every day don't notice it.
Right. Right.
We've never had that issue, and I say that not with pride, but Jess has allergies too. And so we need to keep a really clean house because her allergy, and me now, I'm starting to get more allergies because we're letting my dog sleep on our bed more often.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing now I'm getting more of the nasal stuff.
With the more contact, yeah.
Yeah, so we do we just rent the carpet cleaner at any of these, Home Depot, any of those places, and we do wall to wall maybe once every 4 to 6 months. We clean the whole place, and we keep it at that level.
Do you do the steam, or do you do the dry foam?
No, it's the shampoo and the extractor.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I don't know what they call it. Carpet something.
Carpet doctor, rug cleaner, rug doctor,
rug
something.
doctor.
Yeah.
And that does a really good job.
Okay.
And that removes smells, fur, all that crap.
Okay, because in some cases I was thinking when you're shampooing the carpet, you're getting it wet, and so that's making the smell
are making it wet, but it's
worse.
Extracting at the same time.
Okay.
And it has to dry.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't do it right before you leave. But even the smell there, it's got some deodorizer in it. You can buy pet shampoo, like 4 pets.
Okay.
There's a bottle, and it's deodorizing at the same time.
Oh, that's an excellent tip.
Yeah, and sometimes people think like a diffuser will help the smell, and it can, but depending on how severe the smell is, now if you have this like vanilla bean diffuser
vanilla
with
and
the
urine.
dog, it's this weird mixture. So if anything, if you're walking in and you're thinking, oh, this isn't ideal right now for a showing, just crack some windows, no matter what.
Right.
If the air's running, if it's in the middle of winter, that's the best way to just kind of get in some fresh air. And you can't really go smudging in someone's house with sage.
It has to do with, the seller wanting to get the best price for their home.
Of course,
or not. And if you're not willing to go the extra mile, you're not going to get the best price for the home.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what we say. It's if you want top price, you have to be in top condition.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you know how some people get with just paying to have the whole house staged and making it look, beautiful.
It's the way to do it.
Yeah, if you can afford it.
Absolutely the way to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, get your dog groomed.
Yeah.
Get your house staged. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can't afford great furniture, everything you have is crap, get rid of everything and have a bunch of rented stuff get thrown in there. We sold my dad sold some condos. He couldn't sell these condos. They were beautiful, top floor, ocean view, but without anything in them because they were brand new. People didn't know if their bed would fit in that small bedroom.
Right,
it looked kind of small, and it was a small unit. It wasn't that big. And they had it on the market for like 3 or 4 months, and then they pulled it, and they staged the whole place and sold it right away.
That's awesome.
Because people could see the bed in the bedroom. Oh yeah, it looks good. It didn't matter if it was a queen or a king. They saw a bed big enough for 2 people in there, and then it sold right away. So staging, especially with an empty place, it's a huge difference.
Well, and the stagers now actually have a lot of this faux furniture, so they can set up a bed that's really some cardboard boxes and a air mattress and a headboard.
Don't let anybody sit on it.
You can't sit on it. It's not going to work.
It helps people with sizing for their own furniture too.
And it's something they can fold up, and it's easy to transport in and out of the home.
And you can get a rescue dog to throw in there, so it looks like they have a dog. And
Well, sometimes I will see listings, and the dog is in the photo, and I'm like, oh, how cute. But the recommendation is that you don't do that because
you're going to alienate
a portion of your buyers who might not like animals. They might be afraid of animals. They might be allergic.
I don't like kids. I don't want to see.
You don't ever have kids in the house photos. And I would say, just touching on that smell thing one more time before we move on, and we actually go to break here. So Jennifer's going to go to break with us today. But if there isn't a lot of carpet and there's still a smell, the dog's bedding is holding a lot of that sometimes.
Okay.
So I would recommend that not only do they take the dog, but take that plush pillow bed that they're sleeping on, all that kind of stuff. Because some of those beds, you can't de-stuff, throw in the washer, you'll ruin them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you can leave them in the sun for 2 hours, but that is where a lot of the smell is contained. If you're like, gosh, the place only has area rugs and it's all hardwood and it reeks, you want to take anything that the dog is laying on materials out and remove that, and that'll get rid of the smell.
If the dog is comfortable being in a crate, and if they have a finished basement, it'd be great to put them, if you're going to do showings, if they can't take the dog with them, and they don't want to board the dog for the day or something, and they're at work, leave the dog in the basement. It's cooler, and they're in a crate. You can see the majority of the house without the barking. They can take a quick peek at the basement and get out of there.
And get out of there.
And they can even leave a little music or something on down there.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
So we wanted to share this with Jennifer. Tell her about this so she can bring it.
This is a Happy Howie's dog treat. This is what I use all the time for training and when I go to someone's house, and I'll just cut this into small
I was going to say, it looks pretty big.
But
you don't want to hand the whole thing over. The dog could choke.
You could slice that into dozens of little pieces. And it's a great... 9 out of 10 dogs, really, the majority of dogs will really enjoy this.
And is this something I can keep in my car?
Once it's open, it needs to be refrigerated.
Okay.
So in this condition, it's fine. I would only cut up what you need, put it in a little Ziploc bag,
Right.
and it's good for the day.
Yeah.
But 2 or 3 days, it's going to get moldy because there's a lot of moisture in it, especially in the summer.
Right.
In the winter, it can be in your car because it's 20 degrees in your car.
Right.
New
Okay.
Hampshire.
But
All
dogs
right, good,
love
yeah.
that stuff. So you take that. We got another one for
excellent.
Brian if he
Thank
needs.
you. I
And we'll
love
keep you
this.
guys safe. So we are going to go to a quick commercial break, guys. We will be back in just a few moments to talk more about houses and dogs.
Happy Howie's all-natural dog treats are made with real, slow-cooked beef, lamb, and turkey. Choose from deli-style sausages, wolf sticks, jerky, burger treats, and our soft meat roll treats. All of our treats are available in bulk or in convenient resealable packages. And dogs just love Happy Howie's. They are made in the USA and available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And online at happyhowies.com. Try Happy Howie's today and save 10% with promo code Quirky10. Happy Howie's. We're making it real.
All right, we are back.
So I actually have some stats for you.
Oh, good.
Okay. So according to the National Association of Realtors, today's pets are real estate influencers, meaning that
everyone's an influencer nowadays.
exactly, meaning that people will actually buy and sell their homes based on the needs of their pets. So
That's fair to say.
Yeah.
We bought our house because of the yard space in the front.
Of course you did. Yeah. So 89% said they would not give up their animal because of housing restrictions. So when we have people going into condos or 55 plus condos or rentals, first question is, do you have pets? And then sometimes it's, what's the breed, what's the weight, etc. 12% of pet owners have moved to accommodate their animal, and 19% said they would consider moving to accommodate their animal. We're really seeing it with first-time buyers.
Yeah.
So 73% of millennials currently own a pet, and 89% of the millennials who bought a home own a pet because renting with a pet is difficult.
Yep.
Exactly. And 79% of those home buyers said when they closed on the property that they passed up otherwise perfect homes if it didn't meet the needs of their pets.
We 100% get it.
I 100% get it too.
Yeah. So when you're looking for new buyers, you want to get a list of dog owners that don't own a home.
Oh, that is
That's how you wanna
smart.
market
You're
to.
a marketer.
Yeah.
All right. I like
Say,
that.
It's not.
Are you having difficulty with your dog and your present rental?
Exactly.
And a lot of those people, those millennials that have a dog, don't have kids either, because it seems like either
The animal is the kid. The
yeah,
dog is the kid.
they're seeing how it goes. It's like a test run with the
absolutely.
dog, or they don't have kids at all,
It's
and they
their-
just have dogs.
Yeah, their fur baby is their first baby.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and in that vein, like Scott said, we literally, when we bought our house in Amesbury, we drove up to the property, and before we even went inside, we said, oh yeah, we're going to take it, just because we saw the property. Like, we could care
model
less
land.
about
Good
anything.
for your dogs.
Yeah, it was 6 acres. It was just perfect. A lot of flat land in the front. So I would say just kind of some general attractions is obviously a yard. A fenced yard is nice. If it isn't fenced, you might want to combine with an invisible fence company that you could send out to. Well, I know the fencing is
so
better
you're not
for liability.
you're not a fan of the electric
I'm
fence?
not thrilled with them, no.
Okay.
Because it allows other animals onto your property
Oh.
that can get in a fight with your dog.
And then you've put your dog at a disadvantage.
And if they walk onto your property
legal issue for you.
and they're trying to break up a dog fight and they get bit by your dog, you're liable on your property because you didn't protect the public from your dog.
Interesting. Okay.
And some dogs will run right through that fence to go chase a squirrel or something.
Yeah.
But all that aside, they're great.
Well, sometimes you know how people
Well,
are.
there's pros and cons to everything.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's a hard no with a fence. You know what I mean? So that would just be a way that they can keep the open yard. So I would say outdoor accommodations are big. If it's an older dog, a lot of people like a lot of living on one floor, so the dog doesn't have to be going upstairs or something else.
Right.
Basements are great, especially in New England. Just to have a cool basement in the summer, especially if a house doesn't have air conditioning. Maybe you can say, the dog can lay on the tile downstairs. So just to me, the first things that come to mind: pools. We just did an episode on teaching dogs to swim. Some people like an in-ground pool for dogs. Some people, it's a hard no with an in-ground pool.
Right.
So it kind of depends on the person. But I would say the way the house is set up, the texture of the flooring is important. You know, obviously you can pull out carpet and stuff, but those radiant heat floors, I'd buy a house in a heartbeat with radiant heat floors in my kitchen for my dog to be sleeping on,
I wouldn't be allowed to walk on.
But the dog
Scott would have to wear shoes, but it would be good for the dogs.
One of the reasons why hardwood and laminate and other smooth floorings are so popular right now is because of pets.
Yeah.
People are like, you know, we think that's easier to clean, easier to take care of,
It is.
better for allergies. And then in new construction, higher end homes, we're seeing dog washing stations.
Yep.
Usually like off the mudroom. So it's almost like a big shower area with a drain, you know, where they can.
I've even seen some built-in dog crate containment.
Areas. Yeah.
It's part of the furniture.
Yes. Yeah.
it's pretty
So I was
interesting.
showing a home this weekend that had an odd little nook, and everybody said, "Oh, what is this for?" And I said, "Well, you know, you could do some shelves and make an extra pantry, or if you had a dog bed or a dog crate."
Right,
and
there
they
you
were all
go.
like, "Oh, this would be great."
That's a great idea. Yeah. Well, in those tubs, it seems to be more of a thing out here too, because so many people like to take their dog swimming in the ocean, so they need a quick rinse. You know, you don't want to
Right.
give your dog a full bath and get the hair dryer
And
out.
you also have
so
that big mud season.
Yes.
The spring is the dogs are out getting all
Absolutely.
muddy all the time. Yeah.
what might be a good selling point is having a groomer that'll come to the house to wash the dog and that, because that's the problem. Is half
There
the
you
time
go.
the people don't actually want to go through the effort.
Right. They don't have to bring the dog somewhere, but they don't have to be the one to do it either. Well, the other thing too is, and I just blanked on it, but so I'll remember that. Anyway, what about like moving day? So the dog, I assume, is going to pick up on stress leading up to the move. I don't know how long they need to acclimate or how difficult it is to acclimate to the new house. But moving day, I feel like they should just be somewhere else, right?
Ideally.
Yeah.
And it gets back to that crating issue too. A lot of dog owners don't crate their dogs, which makes it a little bit more of a project to
Right.
manage their dog when they're moving and all that stuff. Our dogs are comfortable being in a crate. So like we can put a crate in the back of our SUV and have the dog get in the crate.
Right.
And of course, with plenty of ventilation, they're not warm. But I mean, while we're moving things, they could be there and not in the way, not getting loose and running down the street.
Right.
But for the average dog owner, they might consider boarding their dog for 2 or 3 days through that process.
Right.
And it's another reason why you should find a boarding kennel that you're comfortable with before you need it.
I agree.
So that when you want
Yes.
to board
Yeah.
your dog, you know, I trust those people. We've had our dog there. My dog
Yeah.
loves those people. And you're comfortable dropping them off if you want to go away for the weekend or you're doing something.
Yeah, when I have people who are moving from out of state and they don't have a local kennel or a local vet or anything like that, that's one of the first things they usually ask. And that reminds me of what I was going to say. We have a lot of homes that have security cameras, and it's just becoming easier and easier to do. But most of them use them to watch their pets during the day. Yeah.
And they're sitting at their desks talking to their pets.
And they're sitting at their desk talking to their pets. So the whole idea of having almost like an intercom or communication system throughout the house for your pet is a new trend as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not a healthy one.
Yeah, kind of bizarre, but
Little codependency there, you think?
I think that the people, you know, it's just kind of a nutty thing to do, I think.
The thing about the cameras,
and this emotional attachment to the animal,
it can get
unhealthy.
Yeah.
And it makes the dog
That will be
more
me
unstable.
when I get my dog. Yeah.
Well, it does create this anxiety in the dog. There's always this contact. There's never the dog is just being a dog on their own. The same kind of stuff with the kids and that helicopter parenting, where the kid is never allowed to just be a kid.
Right.
Go play in the dirt by yourself.
Yeah.
Like the way kids used to.
We're all getting more doting and needy as society
Yeah.
develops. And with the cameras, we have them too. And my joke about talking to the dog, a lot of people are like at work, they tune into the camera. Oh, he's so cute. Hi, baby. He's in the middle of sleeping. He's totally comfortable. And now somebody's talking, you know, and they get confused and stuff. So sometimes less is more.
They're like, why do I hear my parents' voice disembodied?
Yes,
Yeah.
a little bit. And if you're comfortable enough, and for your potential clients out there who are listening, if your dog isn't conditioned to a crate and you're planning on going through this whole process, just start conditioning the dog to a crate. You can just get a cheap fold-up crate from PetSmart. They can't be more than $100, no matter what size dog you have, even a Great Dane. And you could just start feeding them the meals in the crate. For the wire crates, they're cheap. You can just start feeding the meals in the crate to kind of desensitize the dog and get it used to it. And it's a nice thing when you get to the new place too. that it has its own little cocoon, its own little hut. It doesn't have to be something they use forever. But dogs, there's a lot of jostling that goes on from moving from a home to a new place and everything else. And they need kind of some grounding too. You know, we forget that the dogs need kind of their own little place to make home.
Yeah, so that's what I'm curious about. So they come into the new home, and I assume like all the smells are different for them, and their family, their people are there, and so a lot of the furniture is hopefully the same. But what are some tips to help the dog through that whole transition of this is where we live now?
Structure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would, depending on your dog, the age of the dog and all that stuff, it doesn't make too much difference. I would treat the new home or restrict the amount of freedom the dog has in the new home.
Okay.
Let them, it won't take long with an adult dog, but rather than just give them the whole house, say, look, this is your new place. Because some dogs might get into some marking behavior. They go and smell and they like, I'll take this room. I'm going to pee here. I'm going to pee
no.
you know what I mean? I'm just going to.
Let's move into a new home and have our dog pee all over it.
That's not an unusual marking behavior for dogs.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so you could just keep them in the kitchen area when you're at work. You put up a puppy gate or something to kind of. So if there is any kind of funny business, it's on a tile floor, linoleum, something that's not going to be a problem. And if they're they may get anxious from being in a new environment, which may cause them to chew and become destructive.
Right.
And they're saying, oh, the dog was great. Now we're in this new house. He tore the couch apart because he's in this new place and doesn't know what's going on. So the key is don't give them too much freedom too quick. Let them slowly get more
slowly get used to different parts of the house.
Yeah, and it doesn't,
rather than have them roam the whole house.
It doesn't necessarily take long, but that's the way I would initially do it.
Well, and they're kind of earning their freedoms then also because, if they go up to the guest bedroom closet and chew on the carpet up there every day, you may not know for 2 weeks.
Right.
But if you just have the kitchen and they were segregated to the kitchen and you come home and see a little nibble on the cabinet, then okay, this behavior is starting. I got to get on top of it,
Yeah.
And another thing that could happen is, they're in this new house and it could be a busier street than the old house. And the dog is hearing its activity out front and then starting to bark at passerbys or, dog, this or that, and running around and getting themselves all agitated, something they never did at the old house. You don't know necessarily it's going on because you're not home.
Right, exactly.
All of a sudden you have a barking issue. The neighbors are complaining that your dog is barking all the time.
Right.
So all these things, and it's always better to be proactive. Set the dog up to have a successful life.
Well, the dog,
rather than having to go in and fix all this crap that's going on.
I was going to say, any of the dog behaviors that need to be corrected usually run back to the people behaviors, right?
Yeah, and if the people are absent, it's because they've given the dog too much freedom too fast.
Okay, yeah.
And that's why the dog is acting out. Either the dog is anxious or it just is being instinctually reactive to things happening in its environment, but they're not socially acceptable behaviors.
So I have a couple of funny showing stories about pets. One is, this was a listing that we had, and they had one of these beautiful, big, exotic birds in a cage, and they would put the bird cage in the garage and then cover it during the showings. And one time I got a call from an agent who said, we're showing the house and we're afraid. We're afraid to go into the garage because we hear all this shrieking. Oh, and is there somebody locked in the garage?
It's like an SVU episode.
Exactly. And I'm like, no, it's just the bird.
Don't worry about the bird.
They said, we thought they had somebody locked in there.
It's funny. I went to
so I put a sign on the door.
I went to a house like that. Bird people, they will dedicate the whole garage. Yeah. This guy had, I was there for their dogs, but he had like 3 big, I don't know if they were parrots, but they were large exotic birds. Yeah. But he had a wall, like a cage wall built in the garage. Wow. The whole half of, like one garage bay was a cage.
Yep, so that it could go around like an aviary
and they
or
live to be like 80 years old, those big birds. They live a long time, and he had them for many, many years. But they're big, loud birds, and they were in the... I had a neighbor once who kept reptiles in his shower in the bathroom.
Oh,
that's bad for showings.
That's bad for showings.
I mean, it was a tub shower enclosure, but and it was a beautiful home. But if you were up there was like, trees and sticks all in there, and it was just like I don't know what you call it, like a terrarium, a giant terrarium with these big lizards and all kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah. I showed a house once.
That's not always good for selling.
Where we went into the 3rd bedroom, and with no warning, of course, beforehand, we go into the 3rd bedroom, and that entire bedroom is just all aquariums, all filled with reptiles and snakes. And I was like, It's okay. I see one occasionally, but that was just a little too much for me. I was like, I can't handle this.
And I can't attest to the reptiles, but for the birds too. And you don't want to overstep too much with your clients. But if there's that situation where, they're in the garage or something, the music is good. Like maybe they could do some, like, I don't know what the birds would like, rainforest stuff, but like for dogs, classical music, reggae music, it's soothing to them. It has a good beat. So sometimes if you put a little music next to them also where they're contained, it might keep them quieted down more.
Rainforest Cafe.
Yeah, there we go.
You make a whole experience out of the showing. And now here's the garage.
And then I'll be like, I have to use the bathroom. The sound of all this rain. We do definitely have an issue with pets in rental housing.
Yes.
Rental housing is becoming more pet friendly. But the concern usually on the part of the landlords is that there's going to be some damage to the property.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, usually there is.
Yeah.
Usually there is.
So what preventative steps can somebody take to keep their animal from chewing, scratching, peeing?
It goes back to the management of using a crate when you're not there and watching the dog or the cat. I mean, we moved into a rental that the previous renters had a cat. Mm-hmm. And the landlord was very animal friendly. It's an old home. He said, it's okay, you can have animals. The place stunk.
Yeah.
Of the urine.
Yeah.
And then Jess went to put stuff away in an upstairs closet, and there was cat poop in the closet.
Ooh.
So that's not responsible.
No.
And that's why landlords don't want to rent to these people, because if they've had one experience like that, they're like, screw this. Too many. I'm not dealing with it.
And cats, I would say, are more of a hard no, because that urine and stuff is really hard to get out. But for a dog client, someone that is looking for a rental that has a dog, sometimes they just need a write-up from their previous landlord. Like that has worked really well for a lot of people. We know that my dog is an upstanding citizen. Like it's lived in this place forever. There's been no problem. It behaves better than a young child would, type of thing. Do you ever run into the ESA stuff, the emotional support animal stuff?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. And we did an episode recently on fair housing and talked a little bit about that.
Yeah. I don't know how those rules will be changing. They're starting to tweak a little bit with the airlines, and then COVID-19 hit in 2020, and who knows where anything is legislatively.
That's been abused quite a bit.
It has been abused. And so now the trend is going more towards it needs to be written by a professional who has actually met the dog.
Yes.
And can actually describe, why and there's a difference between emotional support and service. So the service animals are really easy to document.
Yeah. And they're well behaved.
Not necessarily.
Hopefully.
Psychiatric that's beyond emotional support, I think. But from a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
That's more of service dog.
Okay,
isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, they don't need a lot of training at all. If it's just kind of a glorified emotional support dog in a sense.
Well, I mean, we had a client who has a service dog, and his disability is neurological, which means he's prone to falls. Yeah. And so the dog is trained to
he can lean on
to stand near him so he can lean, and then also to assist him if he goes down.
Right.
I don't know exactly what he does if he goes down.
But it's actually doing something.
There is a service component there. Yeah. When we called the condo association and said, we'll give you the documentation, the property manager was like, don't even bother, because we're not going to say no because we're afraid of the lawsuits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And for the ESA stuff, things are changing as time goes on and everything. But another thing you could suggest is, why don't you guys go get a CGC on your dog, a canine good citizen, and they'd have to work with a trainer. And it's not easy for a general pet dog to pass that test. And it's just walking comfortably by a stranger, by a dog, sit, stay, just some basic stuff. It's kind of parlor tricks for the actual test. But now it's a certificate that says my dog was able to do these things.
Right.
It is a canine good citizen. Maybe you could consider him more so now.
The dog can respect boundaries and
it has some training. They've made some effort because that's the thing. If people are going to say, well, my dog's perfect. Well, okay, they need to prove that or show that you put some effort in to make that happen. And some dogs, they're not a problem, but some dogs can really
insurance companies now are requesting that.
Yeah. Yes, I was going to say insurance companies are getting a little strict about
and I've had
that too.
And very far and few between, but more than one client contact me and ask me for something written up for their condo association. Yeah. And I won't do it.
Like a testimonial for their dog? A letter of recommendation for their dog?
No, they're saying the dog's an emotional support dog. Because that's the only way you can get a dog in.
Right.
Because you can't argue with an emotional support dog. Right. And I say, I'm not the person to tell...
Evaluate that.
Yeah, you need to go to see a therapist and then they're going to write this out and say, this is your thing, but they don't necessarily want to have it on record that they have been to a therapist.
Exactly, yeah.
But
because
I'm not going to go in
with the mental illness.
Whatever the reason, but it's not my position to say, that's an emotional support dog here.
No.
That could be anybody. I mean, I'm not qualified to tell someone that, you know.
Well, and most people have pets. There is an emotional benefit to it.
But
how could you really determine? You can't.
It's not.
You're the dog trainer.
It's not for me to determine. Yeah, you need to be a therapist. Yeah.
He does like to evaluate people's crazy easily, but it's probably not politically
quite
correct.
often I'll say you definitely need one, but I'm not the person to write it up.
I know there are multiple insurance companies that will sell you like health insurance for your dogs or veterinary insurance for your dogs, and I've come across at least one of them that also has a rider that will pay your landlord if there is damage to the rental property.
Well, tell me who it is.
Yeah,
and let's live link it because that is a good, that is, the proof is in the pudding, and they're taking a decent amount of liability there, but that's a great idea.
We don't know what it costs per month to have that.
True.
It didn't seem that expensive to me.
Yeah. I think that now that health insurance for dogs has been around for about 10 years or so, that they're starting to push back on a lot of the billing they're getting.
Right.
Because people are really, it's a great thing. I mean, if you have one dog and you're paying $50 a month for health insurance and you have one surgery is $3,000.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. There's cancer for your dog. Now you could do $20,000 in cancer treatments.
Easily.
And these guys were paying it, the insurance companies. And now they're starting to back up a little bit and make more restrictions, just like our health insurance. You pay all this money. And then when you go,
they're going to recoup it.
Yeah, and then you go in for some simple thing, and they send you a bill on top of your stuff. You know.
Yeah. And for the renting situation, just as one last aside, if the landlord is really hung up on it and can't get it through their head, they can always raise the security deposit as well if the capital is there on the front end. You know what I mean? Like, it's normally 1 month's rent. We're going to do 1.5. We're going to do 2 months.
So both New Hampshire and Massachusetts have laws about how much the landlord can collect up front. There's a maximum, which is to protect the consumer, and they have slowly been adjusting those to address the whole pet security deposit thing. But more often than not, what I'll just see is that there's an increase in the monthly rent.
Monthly.
It's an extra $50 or $100 a month.
Which sucks because it's not recoupable.
Exactly.
And it doesn't give you an incentive to keep your dog being really well behaved.
Correct.
It's like, I'm paying $1,200 extra a year. The dog can do whatever he wants.
Exactly. That's
the attitude people get.
You're
like,
right.
It's not like if I keep my dog really, really good, I can get my security back.
Right. Yeah. One of the gifts we like to give at closing, it's not the only gift, but whenever we have a pet owner who closes on a new home, we like to go and get the new tag engraved for them.
Oh, that's nice.
With the dog's name and the address, and add, put that on their bottle of champagne or what have you.
That is a good idea. With the new address.
With
you don't want the dog being returned to the old address.
Exactly.
Well, this was super fun, Jennifer. Do you have anything else for us here? Because
I want to know.
We want to impart all the wisdom we can on you.
I want to know about your pigs, because I could give that out with the dog tags.
Tell her our pig story, why we use our pig.
Jess is the godmother of her girlfriend's child.
We always talk dogs.
And
exactly.
She found this pig, or I found this pig in a veterinary office. They were selling dog toys.
Yeah.
And I said, this would be a good toy for Jack, this little 1-year-old kid. And then I said, I'm going to I think I bought 2 of them at that time. Yeah. So we sent one to Jack, this 1-year-old, and then I had one, and we FaceTimed him. And he had his pig, and we had the pig, and we were doing it.
It's irresistible
through the FaceTime.
Just like squeeze. Yeah.
And then when we did our first podcast, I said, I'm taking the pig with me to the podcast. And she's like, what are you bringing the pig for? I said, I just want to bring the pig to the podcast.
It's his emotional support pig.
Exactly,
And then it just became part of the show that we just...
But Multi-Pet sells them, and they come, there's like holiday versions and everything else, and they're super cute. But I would just get your old logo right on the belly.
Yeah, that would be very cool.
Or a little ring in the pig's nose with your stuff going on. But the pigs are great. Adorable. And it actually is a dog toy. So it would be a good additive as a dog toy. It's not just a
That's what you do.
FaceTime
you get a crazy dog, you come in.
Exactly.
And then throw the pig to the back of the room.
And then throw the pig. Yeah, I'm thinking it's like when my brother gave my daughter Play-Doh for Christmas one year. My husband was like, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah. Well, if you just give it to somebody when you're showing the house or after they purchase the house, you won't have to see the aftermath of it. It'll be fine.
And it won't get stuck in the carpets.
Yeah. He's adorable. I love him.
Well, try the Happy Howies as well. This was super
yes,
fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Combine. Make sure that you guys check out Spouses Talking Houses, their Facebook Facebook page. And again, Jennifer and Brian are licensed in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, and we have a lot of local listeners in New England for that. So if you guys are selling or you want to sell while the market's still good, get on that quickly. If you need anything from us personally, you can email us at studio@thequirkydog.com, and you have your comment, like, and share pitch, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do they do that through YouTube, or how do you have your listeners do it?
Whichever thing they're on, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. iTunes is probably the preferred for leaving reviews.
Yeah.
But whatever they happen to listen on or watch on, we would love it. And now I have a contact to give to people who need dog training, and they can listen to your podcast, and we can help them get the dogs prepared with the crate and then acclimated to the new house. That's
and
wonderful.
get those houses sold. We don't want the dogs getting in the way of the sale.
No, not at all.
They can only contribute to it. Well,
Not
thank
at
you
all.
so much, Jennifer. We appreciate it. And we will see you guys next Wednesday or whatever day we have that Spouses Talking Houses going on.
Thanks
All
for
right,
coming.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Music courtesy of the Eric Lindbergh Trio. Please visit his website at www.ericlindberghworld.com. Jennifer and Brian are licensed to practice real estate in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. Brian is also a certified general appraiser in New Hampshire. They are not lawyers, accountants, home inspectors, or therapists. Real estate customs and rules may be different in your area. Each Keller Williams Realty office is independently owned and operated. The Realtor name is trademarked to members of the National Association of Realtors. If you are currently under contract with a real estate agent, this is not intended as a solicitation. Views expressed on this podcast by Jennifer may not be shared by Brian and vice versa, nor are they necessarily the views of Keller Williams Realty.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.